Hi friends, how are you? I'm not a life coach. I'm not a therapist. I'm a mom. My name is Ina Irby. Good morning. I hope you're having a good morning today. Yesterday, I have to think about things. I really have to let it kind of sink in. And yesterday, it was about recovery and on courage to change. And how it's hard to know which direction, which way is the right direction. And it is about relaxing and meditating and exercising, right? There's the Stephen Hassan literature I would imagine that you could read. This is Al-Anon literature. And I only kind of take this book. Well, one, it was my dad's. And he gave it to me, and I think it's a wonderful book to have because we're dealing with a very difficult organization, a very difficult publishing company, and it's a bit of a narcissist, I would imagine. I think it's the organization itself is very narcissistic. So there isn't really a book for narcissists or for recovering from one that you could go over daily. That's why I choose these two books. I've told you that before. So literature, Stephen Hassan would be good. Play, eating a healthy meal, all those things help you gradually get stronger. And I know that with my recovery from this crazy belief system, it's those little small things that make a difference. Because I want it to go faster, and it doesn't work that way. Because there's so much healing that's necessary. And there's a lot of unknowns, right? Henry David Thoreau, I like the quote, "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours." So it's all those little steps that are helping you live daily. Some of us have some really big hurdles, especially if you are going through any sort of recovery process, whether it be alcoholism, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. And then this is spiritual abuse. I mean, we've been abused. And it's hard to wrap your mind around it. That's what I find for me, it's very hard to wrap my mind around how many years I've done this. And it's hard. And I wish I could make it go a lot faster than it's going. But I can't. I think too, the more that people come out of the organization, the more intense and anxious people will feel. And so I do what I do because I think eventually people will find me. And if it's not, you find the right person at the right time. I don't have a lot of followers. I don't want a lot of followers. I like having small groups, and I've always been more comfortable in small groups anyway. So it's nice to just be able to talk about it, because it's very scary when you realize how much time is lost, and then you don't really know the future. Jehovah's Witnesses are big on the last days, and the world will end and paradise will be on the earth. I do believe in a kingdom that will be brought from heaven down to the earth. Just not the way they've explained it. It's like they're not any different from their sister Babylon the Great. Not any different. Raining down hellfire. So it's the same thing. Hellfire. We don't believe in hell. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we didn't believe in a hell, but somehow it's okay to believe that people will be destroyed that way. I think sometimes it's okay not to know. It's okay, I'm all right not knowing. I don't want that. I think the wicked people, of course, I would want them to go away. But anybody can change. I think anyone can change for the better. That's my thoughts on it. And I was an idolater for most of my life. I'm the first one to get destroyed. Oh my. Yeah, so I came across something that helped me. Let me see if I can find it. I think Mr. Douglas put it, his words, I think looking at the past and seeing people survive it. I mean, this man survived the most brutal time in human history, I feel. Close to almost, I think it's worse than the Holocaust, actually. Only the United States has never been honest about its deception and brutality when it comes to the people of color. And I think that is probably the ugliest time in human history. The United States has committed crimes. History, if it wasn't for people like this to write it down, we wouldn't know that it existed. Really, we wouldn't know. It's been so blatant about trying to wipe it away. So, I appreciate this man. And when it comes to spiritual slavery, I look to the words that he wrote and penned. It says, no, he's talking about slavery. The prospect was not always a bright one. It's on page 280, My Bondage, My Freedom. And he's talking about trying to escape. The prospect was not always a bright one. At times, we were almost tempted to abandon the enterprise and to get back to that comparative peace of mind which even a man under the gallows might feel when all hopes of escape had vanished. Quiet bondage was felt to be better than the doubts, fears, and uncertainties which now so sadly perplexed and disturbed us. The infirmities of humanity generally were represented in our little band. We were confident, bold, and determined at times, and again doubting, timid, and wavering, whistling like the little boy in the graveyard to keep away the spirits. There's a lot of unknowns. And you sometimes, I know when I listen to certain experiences about people who are still in the organization, and if you know or you have quiet questions about where you are and what you have done, and you're getting doubts, sometimes it is easier to fall back into that slave-like thought and just be okay with where you are. because your fears and uncertainties can take over. And so that is what he's explaining. It's hard to understand what you've done to your life and possibly to others' lives. But I think it's important to stand in the right, to be on the right side of human history. And Jehovah's Witnesses, the corporation, it's a corporation. On paper, it's just a corporation. It's odd because it hasn't protected its people, and it won't, because it's a corporation. Corporations are not known to be kind-hearted to their people. It's a corporation. So yeah, it's hard for individuals to wrap their minds around it. I'm finding that to be the case for me. When you realize, wow, it's a corporation. It has no connection to the human mind and heart and soul. It has no problem dictating abusive behavior on their people. And it's dangerous. It's a dangerous place to be. If you are a child, if you are abused in any way, if you are a woman that is experiencing abuse, if you are an individual that has emotional issues and mental issues, yeah, it's a dangerous place to be. I feel my encouragement would be to get out. To stay in a place like that isn't good for your soul. It's not good for your soul. And it's frightening to come out, but it's better. I think it is a much safer place to come out of the organization. It's a much safer place for your soul to come out, even though you're not really sure what's going to happen. There are uncertainties. It's true. There's uncertainties. But to live is a good thing. To live is a good thing. And it feels good to be free. It feels so good to be free and not look behind my back, not look and see where I said something that was wrong, or get a gasp, or get the feeling of coldness because I didn't agree with something that an elder said, or I didn't agree with something that was in a watchtower. It feels good to be able to express myself openly. And even now, I'm finding that because I have a different view, it feels good to be able to express it and not worry about what family members think, or that are Jehovah's Witnesses, or what my friends think that are Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, so shunning is not a big deal for me. I didn't really have a lot of friends in the organization. I had acquaintances. They knew me, I knew them, but to be associated every week on a weekly basis with these people, no, I didn't. I had good friends. They distanced themselves from my family, so I could feel that. And so it was easy for me to just cut off. It was very easy because it was easy for me to cut off because they had distanced themselves from my girls and I. And that made it easier for me to just say, okay, this doesn't feel right. And I'm still looking for what doesn't feel right, because for so long you kind of quiet that down. And so that's where I am too, is what doesn't really feel right to me in a group setting. So I'm still trying to figure that out as I progress through this. And then you have life, right? Life is constantly busy, and it doesn't stop for your pain. It just doesn't. It doesn't stop for death. It doesn't stop for sickness. It doesn't stop for pain. It doesn't stop for young people, little ones. Doesn't stop. It doesn't go slower for little ones, and it doesn't go slower for the aged. So, yeah, it's like, it's exhausting. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the tiredness, and I'm enjoying the fact that I can live freely in my mind and in my heart. That feels good. That feels good to my soul. And knowing the fact that I'm not going to put my children through this. I think the anxiousness that came from that was very scary to me, because my daughter is 13 years old, and this is about the time that they really start harnessing the child. 13 is usually about the time where they start expecting baptism questions, or how do you feel about baptism? And that's scary to me. So being on the right side of history, that's really important for me as an adult, and for my children to see. I don't want to look back in regret for my children, because I was scared to move forward and get out of the organization, even if it meant that we didn't know what we were going to really do. So, and I know that there's a lot of, if they're quietly, I had a friend, and she was like a family member to me. A sister that I never had, an aunt that I never had, a mother that I never had. And I quietly listened to her thoughts. She was talking out loud, and she had said, I will live, and I will probably die a Jehovah's Witness, even though I know that there's certain things that aren't 100%. And she was just kind of talking out loud, not really realizing that I was paying attention to what she was saying. And I felt really sorry for her. She had never been married before. She was a single sister who had spent most of her life, and knew nothing else. And I know she had prospects of marriage outside. I'm sure she did. She was beautiful. So to hear that, and she was already in her 60s, is sad, because it could have been lived differently. And yeah, she had relatively safe, clean way of life, depending on how you view clean, because I feel like I'm blood guilty because of what I did to other people outside of the organization, knocking on their doors. That's my personal opinion about what I have done. Because we weren't directing people properly to the scriptures. And so, yeah. To see her thoughts on her life and how she would be okay just living what she lived and dying in the organization was sad to hear that. It was sad, because she still had years that she could live. But they're afraid. They're afraid to move on. They're afraid to get out because of their uncertainties. As Mr. Douglas had said, it was better to be in quiet bondage. It felt more peaceful to live that way in quiet bondage for some. And yeah, so it's hard for people. But I suggest don't live that way. Enjoy free thought. Enjoy a different way of life, even though there are uncertainties. Enjoy it. Because there is all the small things that you can do for yourself that make up that one big step where you're transformed and you become a different person, a survivor. So, yeah. I hope this helps you on your healing journey. Follow your bliss and be good humans.